The orientation of the grounding pin on an electrical outlet, whether it faces up or down, is a subject of debate and often comes down to personal preference. However, there are some practical considerations and common arguments for each orientation. Firstly, let's discuss grounding. The grounding pin connects to the grounding wire, which is a safety feature designed to provide a path for stray electrical current to return to the source, tripping a circuit breaker and preventing electrical shock. This is a critical safety component of any electrical system. The primary argument for mounting the ground pin upwards is related to safety. Proponents of this method argue that if a metallic object, such as a partially unplugged plug or a falling object, were to make contact with the outlet, it would ideally contact the ground pin first. This would trip the circuit breaker, reducing the risk of electrical shock or fire. Secondly, some believe that having the ground pin on top makes it easier to identify the ground connection, particularly in older installations where the wiring might not be clearly marked. However, modern electrical codes require clear labeling of all conductors, so this is less of an issue in newer installations. The arguments for mounting the ground pin downwards often center on aesthetics and practical considerations. Firstly, some people simply prefer the look of having all the outlets oriented the same way, with the ground pin consistently at the bottom. This can create a more uniform appearance, especially in large installations. Secondly, it's argued that with the ground pin down, if a plug were to partially slip out of the outlet, any exposed conductive parts would be less likely to come into contact with objects resting on the floor, reducing the risk of shock. Thirdly, it can be easier to plug in devices with bulky transformers or adapters when the ground pin is at the bottom, as it provides more clearance. From a code perspective, the National Electrical Code, or NEC, does not specify a required orientation for the grounding pin. The NEC focuses on the proper installation and grounding of the electrical system rather than a specific direction in which the outlet is mounted. Article 406.4 covers the installation of receptacles, but it does not address the orientation of the ground pin. What is important is that the outlet is properly grounded and installed according to local and national electrical codes. When installing an outlet, ensure that the power is turned off at the circuit breaker. Use appropriate tools and follow all safety precautions. Connect the grounding wire to the grounding terminal, the neutral wire to the neutral terminal, and the hot wire to the hot terminal. Double-check all connections to ensure they are secure and properly tightened. If you are not comfortable working with electricity, it is always best to hire a qualified electrician to perform the installation. They will have the knowledge and experience to ensure that the work is done safely and correctly. In summary, while there are arguments for both orientations, the NEC does not mandate a specific direction for the ground pin. The choice ultimately comes down to personal preference, aesthetic considerations, and practical factors. The most important aspect is to ensure that the outlet is properly grounded and installed in accordance with all applicable electrical codes. Always prioritize safety and, when in doubt, consult with a qualified electrician.